Okay guys, I have been trying to get a candle making video or a wax melt making video out to you all week. I cannot find a good spot for my camera, for the tripod. You guys are in the sink today, okay? And you are way up high. This is the only way I could get the view on everything that I'm doing. There's still going to be things that you're not probably going to be able to see, like the numbers on the scale, possibly the temperatures. But I'm going to try my best, and I'm going to take you along with me while I make these flower molds. So this is what I'm making today. I actually have a private customer that I sell to almost on a weekly basis. If not weekly, it's bi-weekly. And she's seen these molds. I do have them in my Etsy shop, not by themselves. They're actually with a bundle. They're with a candle. And she's seen these, and she loves honeysuckle, and she loves the inner piece from Lone Star. It's a very sweet scent. So she wanted to know if I could make her some flower molds in those two scents, and I told her I would, as long as I have the oil. I don't mind. And that was because she thought they were cute, but I think her melter is a little bit on the smaller side, and so these were the perfect size for her melter. I actually have some here that I made. This is like my own personal stash, and this is April Downy. I love that. So because it was for me, I didn't dye them or anything like that. They're nothing fancy, but if you can see them nicely, they have like a little, nope, you can't see them. I guess the lighting is, hold on a second. Let me see if I can turn off this top light and see if that makes it any different. So it's got, okay, this one's a little jacked up, but let me show a perfect one. Here's a perfect one. It's really cute. I like these. However, when I go in here and I grab, it's like a treat. So I grab like a whole handful, and then I go and drop them off in all of my wax melts. So this was full about a month ago, but I have 4 of these jars filled with my own little secret stash of wax melts. So that's what we're gonna make today. Let me turn this back on. All right, so for the inner piece, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm going to dye those little flowers like a pink. And I don't have any yellow for the honeysuckle. I need to buy some yellow, and I need to buy a few other colors if I plan on keeping those. I'm going to show you a picture of my chakra wax melts. Those came out really well. They're on the shop right now. I used all the different colored dyes that I had in stock to make those. They have to be specific colors, so I am going to have to re-up on my dye if I want to continue making those. So for the inner piece, I'm going to make those pink. For the honeysuckle, I wanted to do yellow, but I don't have yellow. So I still wanted to make them pretty for her. So I am going to use some of the pearl mica powder and add that in there for her, so that at least they have kind of like a nice shimmery shine to them. They're not just white. So for this one here, I'm only going to be making 1 pound of the tart wax. Again, I use Problend 650. I get that from Flaming Candle. I don't know where else you can get that from. I haven't purchased that anywhere else from anywhere else besides them. My wax that I use for my candles is a C3 soy wax. I've been able to get that from Flaming Candle, as well as Lone Star, as well as Fillmore. Fillmore carries it, at least they did. I haven't purchased it from Fillmore in a while, but those are my waxes that I use. So today we're going to be measuring out 1 pound of wax, which is 454 grams, but I am making 16% fragrance oil, and I'll actually show you the formula that I use to measure out my fragrance oil for my 1 pound. So it actually comes out to 381 grams for one batch, and that's going to be 73 grams of fragrance oil in there. That's a lot. It is a lot, but these have a lot of, these pack a punch. So 381 grams is what we're looking for. Make sure my scale is set to grams. You want to tare it. So now we're back down dishwasher just kicked on. Great. I thought it was done. Alright, actually that's a little bit much. Just dump some of that out. Perfect. Alright, put some water in my pan. So I am doing the double boiler method today. I'm not going to use the Presto pot for just 400 grams of wax. It would probably be quicker, but I'm just going to do the Presto pot. I'm going to put this in here and let this melt down. I usually use this thermometer in the pan while it's I don't want to say cooking, while it's melting. And then I'll use my electric thermometer when I'm testing it. I don't know how I went so long without this thing, because this thing is a godsend. It gives you the temperature immediately. With wax, when you're making wax melts or candles, the wax temperature drops so rapidly that by the time you take it off the oven and add your dye, if you're going to add dye, and your fragrance oil and stir, it can easily drop 20 degrees right in just a matter of a minute. And so it does take time for that to reach the temperature if you're testing it when you take it off the stove. So this really does come in handy. I really like this one. So what I'm going to do today is, I have the measurements. I know what I need for these flower molds, and I need about 200 grams of wax. So what I'm going to do is, when this is done, I'm going to measure out 200 grams of wax for this, and I'm going to pour it in here, and then I will pour from here to the molds. And the reason why I do that is because this is just smaller and it's easier to handle, and I have more control over pouring this into something so small like these molds. This just helps me out. So you don't have to do that if you want. If you are good at, your hand is steady and you can pour from a big pitcher, that's fine. Most of the time when I make molds, usually I can pour it in there without it going over, but every once in a while I do go over and it spills everywhere. As a matter of fact, I need to put paper towels under here. You guys probably can't see anything but my gray hair. I'm probably not accomplishing anything by this position. I don't know. I'll have to see what it looks like when I view it. Alright, can you see that? Kind of, yes, maybe a little bit. Alright, so I'm going to let this heat up, and then I'm going to come back and we will finish up. Alright, so while the wax is still melting, it's still melting. I just wanted to let you know how I kind of clean out my pouring pitchers, big and small. I will usually, between different fragrances, I will clean all of it out with just regular rubbing alcohol. This one's like brand new, it's over full, so I'm trying not to get it everywhere like I just did in the sink. But I will just go in with a paper towel and clean the inside of this. This one here is for my fragrance, so definitely I don't want a fragrance to transfer over to another one. So you want to give that a good clean out, and then give this one a good clean out. I will do this alcohol method several times while I'm making different batches if I'm doing different scents. The only time I won't do it between batches is if I'm using the same fragrance oil. But if you're dyeing your candles or wax melts, if you're switching up your scents, you definitely want to clean that all out. So those are good to go. Definitely want to be careful about getting water near your wax melt molds, any of your things that you're going to use, because water and wax do not mix very well. I learned that the hard way. One time I had taken off my pouring pitcher from the stovetop and I didn't realize it, but I had water down here. and I started pouring, and I noticed some of the water dripped from the bottom of it into my clamshell, and it messed up that clamshell. I had to dispose of it. So definitely don't want to get water on anything. I usually don't pour any of my things here in the kitchen. I have my workroom next door, and so what I usually do is, this is just primarily for heating and melting my wax and stirring the fragrance oil and the dye, and then I walk over to that room and I transfer. But when you're trying to record and you don't have proper equipment, and you don't have good lighting, and you don't have any place to put anything, and you're really working on time, and you don't want that temperature to drop, so it's kind of hard to do all that and change the position of the recording and the camera to different spaces. So that's why I brought the molds over here. But it does kind of make me nervous when I'm washing my hands in between, and I'm drying my hands. I don't want to get any water in here, but I'm just gonna have to try to be careful. So I just wanted to go over that, and then we're getting there, guys. We're getting there. Probably another 5 minutes, so I will be back. All right, so the wax is done melting, and we're at 196 degrees, if you can see that. Maybe. Okay, so we're at 196, which is about what I like to heat my wax up to on the stove. It gets a little bit hotter in the Presto pot because it's kind of hard to control that. So I'm going to go ahead and get my fragrance oil poured out. So again, I'm going to turn my scale on, make sure it's on grams, put it down, tare it, and then I need 40 grams of fragrance oil. I think I'm going to do the inner piece first. I ended up putting 43 in there. 43 grams. All right. So fragrance oil is ready. And for this one, I do want to use the pink dye. I'm just going to tear off a little bit, maybe. Whatever I use in this video, I will go ahead and link it down below. I get this off of Amazon. I buy candle dye from multiple sources. I've bought them from Candle Science, I've bought them from Lone Star, I've bought them from Amazon. So I can't really say that there's a favorite. I think they all work pretty much the same. All right, so now I'm going to clear this out again. Tear it out. Where's my towel? Sometimes this is really hot. All right, so I'm going to just pour until I reach 200. I'm going to keep that one on and let that kind of simmer at a low heat. I do have a hot plate. I don't use the hot plate that often, but that does come in handy. So right away I want to check the temperature. We're at 193. So I'm going to put that dye in right now, right away. You want to get that dye in there, especially if you're using a non-liquid dye. You need to stir that up really well. You don't want any chunks. So I really like to get it in there when my wax is nice and hot. Grab a hold of it here so I can move it around. Okay. light color. It's a light pink, so this is probably going to come out like a pastel type color. It's not going to be dark at all. This is really light. Very light. I wonder if I should have added more. You know what? No, that's okay. I'm actually going to add a little bit of the mica powder. All right, so a little bit of this goes a long way. You don't need much. I'm gonna just add a little tiny baby teaspoonful. You can kind of see it, but it does have that kind of shimmer to it. It's coming out really nice. I love the mica powder. I don't love how it separates in the melter. I do notice that it does separate from the wax after it's been in the melter for a while. All right, so good, and I'm going to check the temperature again. We are at 171. See how fast that goes down? So I'm going to go ahead, and I like to add my fragrance oil sometimes anywhere between, it depends, but anywhere between 170 and 180. That's my that's my fragrance oil area. Pour that in there. That is very pretty. I like that color with that mica powder. I usually stir for about a minute and a half. It's kind of hard to tell because usually you can see your oil and you can kind of tell when it's mixed up and when it isn't, when it still needs some more mixing, but it's hard to tell with that mica powder in there. I'm going to have to warn her and let her know that I put mica powder in her wax melts. I don't want her to freak out when she starts melting them and ask me what did I put in there. This is the first time I've actually used it for a customer. All right, so I think that's good. All right, and now we're going to pour. Sorry guys, I can't talk when I'm doing this. It takes like my full concentration. I do like the mica powder. I really do. ones that I have the hardest time pouring are my little marijuana leaf molds. Those are so small and they're so shallow. I remember the first time I bought them and I tried to pour wax in there. Oh my god, it was a hot mess. I had wax all over the place. I had more wax on the table around it than I had in the molds. And this one smells so good. So I ended up getting 3 of them filled, 3 perfectly filled ones. I'm really actually surprised that I didn't botch this and get it all over the damn place, because that's normally what would happen. But I really do like the mica powder in here. I really do. I think it kind of gives it, I'm actually kind of happy I didn't add any more dye to that, because it's a very, very pale pink, and with that mica powder it has like a nice little shimmery color to it. So I'm anxious to see how those turn out when they're done. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let these sit up, and I think I'm going to pour the other half of that and get her some of the honeysuckle that she wants and finish these up. But that is how I make my wax melt molds. So if you have any questions or comments, just hit me up in the comment section below. Again, I will link everything that I have used in here. Some of these things I don't even know where I got. I think this pouring pitcher came with a kit years ago that it's in good condition because I've never used it for actual candles. I just use it to measure oil, so that's why this one looks really nice. Some of the things I don't remember. Some of the things I just grabbed from around the house, my shish kebab things that I had in the drawer. I've never been a fan of using wood in my wax, so I just prefer to use the metal. But everything else that I know of, I will go ahead and link. I bought the molds on Amazon. So yeah, so anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and sorry that you're so high up, but this was the only way that I could figure out how everyone could see everything. And you probably still couldn't see everything, but I hope this helped a little bit, and until next time, have a great night, guys. Alright, so it's been about an hour, and I just came back and popped these out of the molds. I ended up using a little bit of the extra oil that I had to make some pink flamingos, and I've got some in my wax melter. I'm testing them, but just out of curiosity, I wanted to weigh these. Actually, it's a little bit less than 2.5 ounces, because if you purchase a clamshell is typically going to give you anywhere between 2.5 to 2.7 ounces. So it took 24 of these little molds, these flower molds, to make 2.5 ounces. So this is right here equivalent to what you would get in a 6-cube clamshell. So I'll probably bag these up for her so that she's getting at least the equivalent of a clamshell. I'm actually probably going to give her most of these, if not all of them. I think I don't know if I'm going to give her the pink flamingos, because I don't even have those up. I just actually recently purchased those, so I'm not quite sure how I feel about them. But you can see that it is starting to melt, and you can see that mica powder. I ended up putting 2 of the flower molds in there and 1 pink flamingo, and it is starting to kind of get that little swirl going, which I love. I love the look of it. One thing about the mica powder is that I noticed that when you look at them, you can't tell that there's mica powder in it. It doesn't have that. It loses its shimmery glitter when it dries or when it hardens. So you can't tell that this has any kind of mica powder in there whatsoever until it melts. So it's like a nice little surprise. So like I said earlier, the only thing I don't like about the mica powder is that once it sits in your melter for a while, it does have a tendency to separate from the wax, and then you get it all sitting at the bottom of your melter. But I did notice that all I had to do was go on there and stir it up a little bit, and it has that nice glimmer again. So I kind of like it. I think it's pretty. But anyway, these are how our molds, these are how our molds came out today. And I hope you enjoyed the video, and until next time, have a great evening, guys.